Good morning. This is Monty once again from DPL Surveillance Equipment. Um, Nice morning, nice and quiet, and fresh air, and the birds are chirping, and it's good to be alive in sunny Southern California. That's for sure, and more specifically, Camarillo, California. Just finished wiping down my car, reviewing today's articles. I think we got some pretty interesting articles, which we try to accumulate every day, but it just today I think I finally went over a few just to look at and see which one I'm going to choose from, and there's a number of them are good ones, definitely. I think you guys are going to be interested. Just to give you a little bit teaser, today we're going to put something under health and fitness, an article on a podcast under health and fitness having to do with a certain type of meat. That's all I'm going to say about that one. And then two things that I think you should be aware of, sort of like that falls under current events, and two articles that I'm going to publish probably later on today. One of them is going to be about the amount of debt. It seems like companies have to issue debt every so often in order to fund their operations. And the appetite for that debt typically is just fine. Excuse the noise. 1 second here. Empty my garbage, as usual. No, it's a lot of noise. Tell me about it. Okay, so anyway, see, typically companies issue debt as part of the normal funding of their operations. You know, everybody has debt. You know, GE, AT&T, Verizon, Time Warner, Microsoft. Everybody has a certain amount of debt on their books, and they go into the bond markets and they issue that debt. And investors, wealthy investors, snap it up. A lot of times they snap it up and it's gone and relatively quickly, and the companies get a decent rate and investors get a decent rate and everybody's happy. Well, when you have an economic slowdown, or if you don't believe we have an economic slowdown, take a look at the debt that's being issued and how it doesn't get snapped up right away. It stays there forever and nobody's buying it. That includes AAA corporate debt, that includes government debt, that includes all sorts of debt that normally will be snapped up by institutional and wealthy investors, right? So that's an indication for you guys out there who are not really familiar with the signs, looking at the signs, noticing the signs that will give you an indication of how things are going. And this is a primary indicator, by the way, when debt is issued by corporate America and government agencies and stuff like that, and nobody's snapping it up. That's not a good sign anyway. The other topic is, what is it? Fake comments on government websites. A lot of times what happens is the FCC, the FTC, or the Public Utilities Corporation, whatever it is, government websites, they have a comment period when they want to change something, like net neutrality rules, like, you name it. How do you feel about some health care bill or whatever it is? A lot of times these government websites, they open up a certain comment period whereby the public gets to state how they feel about certain things that are being proposed out of Washington, and the public goes into the website and they comment, and those comments are supposedly taken into consideration. But what has been happening for a while now, well, it could be happening just forever. We just never finding out. But what's happening is there are a lot of fake comments, more fake comments than real comments. And what is happening is a lot of companies are getting into the business of submitting fake comments, particularly around election time, A lot of times, these third-party companies are employed to make it seem like this is the issue or that is the issue, or maybe some issue needs to be obscured or confused or some doubt put into a conversation. Those what those third-party companies are all about. They go onto these sites and they submit lots of fake, bogus, controversial, fear-based mongering and such. And so therefore, people like you and I, we think we're interacting with real people and having an intellectual discussion, not to, then we finally realize afterwards that, a lot of these people are not real people. They're stolen fake identities, or they're just basically trolls hired by companies to, again, cause confusion, fear and doubt, uncertainty, and or just to sway public opinion in another direction. So anyway, I'll publish that information. I suggest all of you go onto my website, look under articles, and check out the one about fake comments on government agency websites, in addition to the one under the health food category that I'm going to put on there today, and make sure you keep tabs of what I'm publishing under economics and finance, because a lot of this is going to have to do with debt, either consumer debt, which is reaching $13.3 trillion, which is a record. Supposedly in a booming economy, people are more in debt than they ever have been. I'm not quite sure what type of booming economy allows people to consume or get more debt as compared to paying off debt. I thought when you make more money and you're doing very well for yourself, I thought you pay off credit card debt and car loans and home loans and everything else. But I guess in this world of fake realities and fake news and alternative parallel universes, that's what happens. The more prosperous you get, the more in debt you get. That's what it looks like, as far as I can tell. Okay, so anyway, my name is Monty Henry. I'm owner of DPL Surveillance Equipment. I run a full-service surveillance and security equipment company. We have lifetime guarantees and warranties on all the products. We have 24/7, 365 tech sales and customer support. We have the largest inventory of items that not only can you buy and rent as well, but you can lay away these products as well. And we have a huge and growing media library, which is what I'm talking about now, the podcasts and the blogs and the demonstration videos and now polls. We got polls or surveys where we're soliciting or asking for your opinion on various diverse topics. 2 polls that you're going to see right now, and the poll feature on the website seems to be working very well. So under articles, look for polls. You're going to see an article on active shooter training, and I'm just asking basically whether or not you guys think active shooter training should be mandatory or required in schools and businesses, government offices, libraries, trains, planes, buses, whatever. And then there's something called active shooter insurance. You may want to chime in on that and give us your opinion on not only training but active shooter insurance, which is basically going to help cover your liability in the event that there's a shooting. Okay, so I think that's interesting. Another poll is, fire prevention. I have my own ideas about fire prevention, and we're getting a lot of additional commentary from people in terms of what they think are good solutions for fire prevention, particularly like the fires we have in California, like we have in California, Hills Fire, Paradise, California, Woolsey fires, Camp Fire rather, is what they call it formerly. 91 or 98,000 acres consumed, 8,000 or 9,000 buildings destroyed. Who knows? 70 people killed. It just goes on and on, unfortunately. Very horrific, and it's time to come up with some solutions as compared to just focusing on problems. So you may want to participate in that poll and let us know what you feel about fire prevention. It's not only a California problem, due to climate change. and some things, more associated with nature and climate and such, as compared to things that we have, immediate control over. When it comes to climate change and fire prevention, it covers a lot of different areas. So you may want to chime in on that poll as well. While you're there, we accept Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, Bcash in our shopping cart. So your crypto millionaires, you may want to stop in there. I know Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies have been declining by a good amount lately, but you want to focus on the long term, and you want to make sure you understand that it has been the best performing asset class within the last 3 or 4 years, and that even with significant declines that we've seen already, we're still talking about over 100% return, and that is taking into consideration that it declines a lot further. So you would still have like 100% return. So we want to make a transition from the fiat-based economy where you get to overprint excessive amounts of dollars for whatever cause, to overthrow governments, to have black box projects within the government that nobody knows anything about, free hostages, money laundering scandal, cover-ups, you name it. The government gets into the habit of just printing its way out of various problems, which don't really resolve the problems because, unfortunately, when you devalue your currency through excessive QE policies like we've had, now you distort asset prices. Real estate prices go way up where they shouldn't be. Gold and commodities and technology stocks, because corporations get access to cheap money. So what do? They hype up their BS. Technology companies and social media companies are valued at $30, $40, $50 billion because a lot of these investors who get free money from the government, they have nothing better to do. So that's why we're seeing a sell-off in technology companies and social media companies. A lot of chickens are coming home to roost, and check out the articles and the podcasts and the blogs and different things, and you'll get an idea of why these chickens are coming home to roost and why we want you to take a look at cryptocurrencies and blockchain because of the transparency, the decentralized nature, the peer-to-peer characteristics of it. That way you can diversify hopefully 5 or 10% of your portfolio onto this space and make sure that you are not a victim of what we consider the economic collapse that's currently going on. I won't even say pending anymore because I'm seeing all the signs. I've been doing this for 20, 25 years at least, so I can see the signs pretty clearly. But a lot of you are probably going to be looking for, some flashing lights or some bells or something to indicate that we're in a recession. When in actuality, if you look at the signs, you'll see that we're already there. And by the time they ring the bell for you, you're going to be caught off guard if you're not lucky. So, also, the website has been completely redesigned and revamped. And as I mentioned, we're initiating all sorts of different tweaks and refinements. But for the most part, we're prepared for the next 5 or 6, 10 years. Just like those of us in the crypto space, you want to have a long game plan as compared to reacting and living paycheck to paycheck. What else? Let's take a look at the article, okay? We know about MasterCard and Visa and HSBC and all those guys ripping us off, so we're not going to go into that into as much detail because that's obvious. Again, I've got numerous articles, and I'm interlinking all of the articles, so when you go to one article and read it, you'll probably have 3 or 4, 5, 6 links that link to some related articles on the same subject. So yeah, when you read about the money laundering taking place at J.P. Morgan Chase, or the fake account openings at Wells Fargo, those articles will link to other articles where you get a chance to read more and more about huge settlements at J.P. Morgan Chase and everything else. So all of those articles are going to be eventually linking back and forth to each other, provided that there's a related article to link with. Anyway, let's see, what are we going to talk about today, you guys? Let's talk about fake meat. Okay, just when you thought it was safe, to consume as much good steak and lamb chops and everything else, now they want to come out with fake meat. Okay, in the very near future, you're gonna go to your local grocery store or something like this, and you'll have probably some beef cows were actually raised on a farm, hopefully free range, antibiotic free, hormone free beef, and right beside it's probably going to be some meat that was cultured in a cell from cells of meat or animals, and raised in a test tube. So just be prepared, because that is definitely what we're going to be talking about today. This article is entitled "Food Regulators to Share Oversight of Cell-Based Meat." Again, food regulators to share oversight of cell-based meat. Let me see, just one second. Let me make one little correction to a word in here. Okay. So, regulators' decision raises prospects for cell meat coming to market. When they say cell, they mean CELL. Okay. 2 U.S. food regulators agreed to share oversight of meat grown from animals, moving their emerging technology closer to consumers' dinner plates. The U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Food and Drug Administration will jointly oversee cell culture meat technology, senior officials said Friday. The decision settles a debate between agency officials over which department would regulate the technology, which has drawn investments from major meat companies and skepticism from cattle ranchers and hog farmers. Just so you guys will know, the Department of Agriculture, in addition to the Food and Drug Administration, both of them want to have a role in who regulates this new industry. This industry is just really getting started, but the FDA and the U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, both the USDA and the FDA, both of them really want to have oversight of this new emerging field of cell cultured meat. So rather than just have one agency, somehow government has come to the conclusion that both of them are going to have a say-so. So anyway, that has been a major area of contention, but they seem to have resolved it. I'm moving right along. Cell-based meat is produced using poultry and livestock cells that have the ability to self-renew. Those cells are placed into bioreactor tanks where they are fed nutrients and oxygen, helping muscle tissue grow. In a matter of weeks, developers say the tissue can be harvested as meat and formed into products ranging from beef meatballs to chicken strips. Regulation of the technology had been in question, with both USDA and FDA officials asserting jurisdiction over it the past year. I'm getting a little activity from the crows for some reason. Everybody has something to say. I guess they don't like the idea of cell-cultured meat. That's what the crows are saying, probably. Anyway, startups like Memphis Meats Incorporated, Mosa Meat, Finless Foods Incorporated, and Ali Farms are pursuing the technology, working to lower per-pound costs from tens of thousands of dollars to a range that interested consumers would consider. In a statement, USDA Secretary Sonny Perdue and FDA Commissioner Scott Gottlieb said the FDA will oversee cell collection, cell banks, and cell growth in meat production. When cells are harvested, the USDA will regulate production and labeling of meat and other products made from cells. from the sales. The agencies will share information as they fine-tune the regulatory process, they said. This regulatory framework will leverage both the FDA's experience regulating cell culture technology and living biosystems and the USDA's expertise in regulating livestock and poultry products for human consumption, the official said in a statement. So it looks like they divided up the responsibilities according to whether or not the cells are harvested or not. While we're still in the cell collection, cell bank stage, and the cell growth and meat production stage, it looks like the FDA is going to be looking at the regulation. And then when it gets to the point where I guess the cells are actually harvested and you get into actual production and labeling of the final product or the meat itself, and other products that are made from it, that's when the USDA looks like they'll take over from there. So anyway, they're dividing up their responsibilities along those lines. They said new legislation to regulate the technology is unnecessary. Uma Valete, chief executive of Memphis Meats, said the move provides a clear path to market for cell-based meats. The regulators' joint approach will help the U.S. stay at the forefront of the technology as companies in Israel, Japan, and Singapore also pursue it, as said Jessica Almy, policy director for the Good Food Institute, a Washington group promoting meat alternatives. We look forward to the day in the not-so-distant future when American families will be sitting down to a dinner of meat made directly from cells, she said, courtesy of this new industry that Commissioner Gottlieb and Secretary Perdue made possible. Livestock producer groups have called for the USDA to regulate the cell-cultured meat products and maintain a level playing field with traditionally raised beef, pork, and poultry. This announcement that USDA would have primary jurisdiction over the most important facets of lab-produced meat, of fake meat, is a step in the right direction. But there's still a lot of work to do on this issue to ensure that real beef producers and consumers are protected and treated fairly, said Colin Woodall, Government Affairs Head for the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. I think a lot of the cattlemen, people who are actually raising real meat, are getting real meat from cows and such, I think they're concerned about the labeling and making sure that people understand which is which. So we're basically talking about competition for eyeballs and shelf space in the grocery stores and making sure that people understand which meat products are what. I prefer real meat, and it should be antibiotic and hormone-free meat. But the traditional farmers and such, cattlemen, they really don't care so much about quality meat as far as not having hormones and antibiotics. They just want to push the meat onto you. So you got to read between the lines in terms of what those guys are actually saying. Not that the cell-based or culture meat is going to be that healthy for you, because I don't know. I'm not quite sure about that. How do you artificially create something, even if it's derived from cells, from the actual animals? I'm not quite sure whether or not it's the same, and who knows what the long-term implications are going to be. So moving right along, cell-cultured meat developers are part of a new wave of alternatives to traditional meat production, appealing to consumers' concerns over the environmental impact of cattle feedlots and hog manure lagoons, the billions of tons of feed grains they consume each year, as well as treatment of livestock and poultry. Startups are promoting a new generation of plant-based products aiming to better mimic the texture and taste of meat. Beyond Meat Incorporated, which sells plant-based burger patties and chicken strips on Friday, filed for initial public offering that would raise $100 million and disclosed $32.6 million in 2017 sales. So it looks like in addition to actual meat-based products, we're going to be looking at plant-based products. So you'll derive your protein from at least three major sources: the actual cows that actually eat grass and such, and then cell cultured or cell-based meat products, which is basically derived from the actual animals but grown in lab environments and conditions. And it looks like the growth process is going to be exponential as compared to waiting for a calf to grow up and then slaughter that calf. And in addition to all of that, we've got plant-based products, which a lot of people consume already. Even my wife eats veggie patties, and she likes them, and they've been in the market for a while, so who knows where we're going with all this. But I think it's an interesting topic, definitely, and you want to chime in on this, guys, and you want to stay on top of this, because it's going to end up in the grocery stores, more than likely in the very near future. And if we don't, people my age, if we don't consume a lot of it, there's going to be a whole generation probably after us that are going to be looking at it. A lot of the millennials and such are probably going to be eating a lot more of this type of product, the cell-based, the plant-based. Who knows what else they're going to come up with. But you always want to take a look at the long-term health and implications, and we just have to do a lot of research and listen to some of the experts who actually study natural, organic, and holistic and alternative health experts, and see what they have to say about this, because they actually take a more holistic look at the body and how we eat and how we consume, and a lot of, it's just more intricate in terms of what they're looking at. The people that are into the experts that are into holistic and Ayurvedic and again homeopathic and all natural organic. That's what we need to be looking at, and make sure that anything else that we consume is on a par with that type of quality that we really need. Okay, so anyway, as I like to say at the conclusion of every single podcast and every single blog or podcast and article, we want you guys to stay safe out there and keep your eyes and ears open. And we'll talk to you later. Okay, have a good day. Thank you. Bye.